everyone. Ogre27 Kane here today, and we're going to do a review of Dead Cells for the Nintendo Switch. Let's do an overview and discuss all the parts and pieces that we're going to look at today. So at first, I thought about reviewing Dead Cells by itself, and then all of the DLCs and expansions separately. But after playing through this latest Castlevania one, I realized that all of the DLCs and expansions are all really part of the same game and really add to or expand upon the main game. There's nothing there that would constitute a second version or a version 2, which would need its own review. I do show the last third of this video a lot of footage of the Castlevania DLC, but I believe it's all part of the same game, and I love the fact that it fits so well together and so seamlessly. Considering this game is going on as old as it is now, I believe it's about 6 or 7 years old. So without further ado, let's get into the gameplay. So this game is a 2D roguelike. It's very fast-paced and has a ton of Metroidvania elements to it. None of those elements, though, really shine ahead of what the true element to this game is, and that's the combat. At first, I really thought there was a ton to the Metroidvania, but after playing it through about 3 or 4 deaths, I realized that Metroidvania element is loose, tentative at most. Once you get through the game on your first entire playthrough, you'll realize that that's about all there is in that aspect. Once you get into the combat side though, you'll play for another 100 hours, because that's where the true depth of this game is. The weapon variation and the change in the 3 different scales you have, tactics, brutality, and survival, all change vastly with your strategy and how you'll play the game. One more interesting element of gameplay that I have to mention is how the funnel of world progression works in this. You will always start in the same biome and always have the same selection of biomes to go to. But as you go through each biome and discover everything there is to it, there will grow new exits, rather to say, and those exits will lead to other new biomes, which have their own extensions as they leave. So it will keep you wanting to move through all of those biomes. So let's hit the story now. Well, the story in this sees you as a lone soldier who tries to figure out what's going on in this island, and as you die, you realize that you're not actually a soldier anymore, but you're a homunculus. And your curse, rather, is to resurrect over and over. Your journey through the island will teach you about all of the different characters and different plots and mechanics to what happened in this world. And as you get to the end of it, you will discover who you actually are. And the nemesis to this game is not exactly what you expect at the beginning. The game does a really good job of exposing who the nemesis is if you're very keen to this, but at the same time it's very good at disguising who it is until you get there. So I hope that the little elements of surprise that you do experience in this game will keep you wanting to figure out who this is, because it did me, and I'm afraid to really give you much more of the story because it really will spoil it. The last thing I need to mention about the story in this game is how it's kind of drip-fed to you between areas and biomes, and that when you beat the game for the first time, don't expect to really know much about this game. It took me several playthroughs and a lot of misunderstanding to figure out what was going on, so very well done and hats off to you guys, because it's not easy in a roguelike. Let's get on to combat now. Well, as I previously mentioned, this is a 2D platformer with combat that goes along with it. The combat in this game, though, is extremely fast-paced and frenetic, and really requires you to learn the movements of your enemies. This game is all about learning everything. There are really no permanent upgrades. There are a few permanent health upgrades that you can get with you, and a few traversal upgrades, but really no permanent upgrades to this game. It is 100% about you learning how to play this game. You can beat this game on your first try or your 100th try. It's literally that crazy. And the difficulty spectrum is based upon your learning skill and your learning curve. How fast you are with reacting to what the world is putting forth to you, and how fast you are to learning the strategies with the weapons and the accessories that you get. How well all this synergizes. So one of the craziest things though about this is having this multitude of weapons leads you to having so many different variations. There are ranged weapons, close range weapons, heavy weapons, light weapons, fast weapons, grenades, traps, every kind of weapon you can possibly think of. So this game really does encourage you to try everything and see what works. Now what doesn't work is when you get stuck with weapons that you can't figure out how to use, and you get frustrated with this in multiple runs. So you will have to learn to adapt to what the game is trying to give you. Controls and audio are up next, and this category is a pretty good category aside from the fact that I feel like I'm always a little behind. They're not bad controls by any way, shape, or form, and they let you rebind and reshape everything. You can put it to your own preference, but for some reason I always felt a little, laggy, and that could just be the speed of the game. So it's my own impression, and it's not necessarily the best one. You'll have to get your own feel. That aside though, I will say the rest of the controls are very responsive, and a lot of the deaths that have occurred have truly been my fault. So let's talk about the audio real quick, and the audio is fantastic. So I'm going to give you a little piece of here to kind of showcase everything that you're going to experience in every battle. There's a lot of fast-paced moments and the music fits with it really well, so let's check it out. Graphics and animations are up now, and frankly, I think the graphics in this game are fantastic for what they're going for. As you can see in the background, there's multiple layers of scrolling, and the animation quality is top-notch. The only thing that kind of bothers me about the Switch version is you can definitely see that there's a noticeable lack of frame rate compared to its counterparts. Pretty much every other system you're going to play this on has a very stable and locked 60 FPS. I do not know what the frame rate is on the Switch, but I do have to mention it does not feel like it's a true 60 FPS. Yes, it does feel like it reaches it a lot of the times, and when you're in areas between, of course it's very buttery smooth, but there's a lot of instances where I ran into enemies where I most certainly could feel the game stuttering and the movement being off. Now, normally this really wouldn't bother me in this style of game, but considering how precise your combat movement has to be, this can punish you unfairly in my opinion. Now that's really truly my only gripe, as I've put well over 100 hours into this game, and I can't tell you that it's bad by any way, shape, or form. I've just noticed that by watching other playthroughs, especially from some of my favorite YouTubers, and their games definitely look a little smoother than mine does at times. The last thing I want to mention is that this Castlevania DLC offers a lot of vibrancy and kind of changes it up, so kudos to them, they did a fantastic job on it. Let's do the conclusion now. Well, in conclusion, Dead Cells on its own is one of the best roguelikes you'll ever play and a top-notch expectation for the entire genre. On top of that, all of the different DLCs that they've added, including this newest Castlevania DLC, add a ton to the game and hundreds of hours of replayability. There's so much variation to this game and so much to do that I can't talk highly enough about it. I'm sorry it took so long to get this review out, but I really had to experience this Castlevania. It really is fantastic and is almost like an icing on the cake of one of the best games I think I've played this generation. With the length and lifespan of this game, you'd almost have to consider it a live service, and if this would be the one that I would choose. This is definitely a game that I've enjoyed to its full extent, and I highly recommend to you. Well, thank you for watching today's video. It was a blast to make. I upload every single Monday. If you enjoyed this, please like and subscribe, and have a great rest of your day. This is Ogre27 Kane, signing out.